Okay, so we are live, and I've got the other thing that came from Amazon yesterday, and it is the Riddler from DC Multiverse. I'm going to turn that light on. Oh, that's a nice looking figure. So yeah, been looking forward to this one for a while. If you guys saw my unboxing of the Blue Beetle and Booster Gold 2-pack, you might remember that I'd speculated at that time that uh, both of those figures used the same body pretty much. And I kind of speculated at the time, hey, I bet they're going to use this as a basic body going forward, and we're going to see a lot of it in the future. And lo and behold, we got this Riddler figure, and he does use a lot of those same parts. I think he even uses the same boots as Blue Beetle, because you can see there's that kind of thick band across the top, like the thick black band across the top of Blue Beetle's boots. Try saying that 3 times fast. But yeah, like really, the Riddler should just have straight tights. He shouldn't have boots at all. But I'm not going to complain. It's not really that noticeable. So I don't really think it's that big of a deal. It's certainly not a deal breaker for me. So I'm pretty impressed with this figure just looking at him in the box. So I can't wait to open him up. We've got some artwork on the back. I believe this was a cover by Carmine Infantino and Murphy Anderson, I believe, did the inks. I think that was who did this one. You can see my package is a little banged up, so that's disappointing. But at least I got the package. It's a little banged up, and not somebody who wants to keep this stuff mint on card. So the Riddler being probably one of the most famous and popular villains of Batman. He had 2 appearances during the Golden Age of comics, and they brought him back for an issue in the Silver Age, and that was one of the issues that just happened to be on the stands when a guy named William Dozier was approached by ABC to adapt Batman comics into a television series. So he had a long plane ride ahead of him. He stopped at the newsstand and basically grabbed every comic with Batman on the stands that he could find. And one of them was that Silver Age appearance of the Riddler. And that wound up being the episode, that wound up being adapted into the first episode of the show. So one of the most important Batman comics ever made just because of that. Now, funny enough, while Mr. Dozier was on his plane ride, the stewardess came over and saw him reading these comic books. And she said, "Oh, comics, I thought those were just for retarded kids." Wow. Okay. Even for the 1960s, that's kind of harsh. but yeah. So it was his embarrassed reaction to that made him think, maybe if I overplay it and play up the more ridiculous aspects of it, that'll be something that the adults will enjoy the show because they'll look at it as a comedy, and the kids, they're gonna like it for like the more action adventure aspects anyway. So yeah, that worked out pretty well because he was able to fool the adults into thinking it was a comedy when us kids knew it was serious business. So that's how that worked. So pretty typical trade dress for these DC Multiverse figures. Not a whole lot going on. Maybe the idea is just you don't want to distract from the figure. And with such a great figure like this, it's easy to see why. Mcfarlane figures have always been famous for having a lot of detail to them. And kind of one of the things I was concerned about when McFarlane got the license is that maybe he might overdo that detail with some figures that should be fairly simple. And granted, like there's a lot of these McFarlane figures that have that kind of ridiculous detail to them, and they should. But something like the Riddler, less is more. you don't want to have like a whole lot of like ridiculous detail on a character like that. And thumbs up to McFarlane for understanding and giving us some figures where like they don't go overboard on the detail and they do keep it simple as it should be. So we'll go ahead and get the cardboard backing out. And once again, the trading card and the stand are on two separate bubbles, and I don't like that because that just makes it so much harder to remove the trading card without damaging it. Now, when they're both on the same bubble, then I can start with the stand and peel the whole thing off and get the trading card off fairly easily. But when it's like this, it's just such a challenge to get it off of there, and we're just gonna have to power through it. So there's the stand, and like I say, every figure these days should come with an action figure stand. There's no reason not to. It's a fairly simple, basic stand with it's an all black stand with the DC logo embossed on there in some glossy black paint. So let's see if I can maybe get this trading card off without damaging it. And how I'm trying to do that is by peeling. Basically, I'm trying to peel the cardboard away from the bubble rather than trying to peel the bubble away from the cardboard. And this bends the cardboard all to hell, but I'd rather do that than bend up the trading card. So I'm just going to throw out this cardboard backing anyway. And got it off. Okay, good. So real quick, before I get any further into that, I'm going to put the backer back in the box. And I'll toss that in my recycling bin later, put the tray back in there and everything. So there's the trading card. And as we're used to from McFarlane's stuff, we get the same picture on the trading card as on the back of the artwork. And I gotta say, this is probably one of the better selections of artwork that I've seen on here, on one of these McFarlane figures. I mean, you've seen me do these videos before where I'll be like, I'm kind of confused as to why they use this artwork. I think this artwork would have worked better, but I don't think they could have found a piece of artwork that would have worked better for this than this old Silver Age cover. I think that the Riddler, even though he premiered in the Golden Age, he's a creature of the Silver Age. He was kind of ahead of his time when he was created in the Golden Age. But in the Silver Age, he just fits in perfectly. So yeah, let's go ahead and read the back. The Riddler, DC Classic. Real name, Edward Nygma, not Nashton. That's some kind of retcon because they thought that Nygma wasn't a realistic name. And I'll hear people go, oh, what are the odds that the guy who becomes the Riddler is named Edward Nygma? That's just silly. And I'm like, no, he became the Riddler because he's named Edward Nygma. Try actually reading the comics, okay? He was when he was in school, there was a puzzle contest, and he said, oh, well, I should ace that because my name is Edward Nygma, Enigma, and that starts him down the path to becoming he became the Riddler because he's named Edward Nygma, not the other way around. Anyway, Edward Nygma found his ticket to the big time as an employee of Wayne Industries, securing the role of advisor to Philip Kane, Bruce's uncle, who ran the Wayne Corporation when Bruce left to train to become Batman. Nygma became plotting his takeover of the city. An expert strategist with genius level knowledge of history, it was not long before Nygma adopted the guise of a supervillain, calling himself the Riddler. Now, I'm pretty sure, and I don't know for certain because I haven't read a whole lot of New 52 comics, but I'm pretty sure this is his New 52 origin. Which, why would you put a New 52 origin on what's clearly a Silver Age Riddler figure? It's a Silver Age design of the character. It's got Silver Age artwork on the trading card. Really, this should read a little more something like this. As a child, Edward Nygma felt a connection to puzzles because of his name. Uh, he even cheated to win a puzzle contest that got him a prize. He then uh, he then would have began a career, you know, doing puzzles at carnivals. I'm just kind of spitballing here. Doing carnival games and puzzle prizes and always rigging them. Bored and wanting a challenge, he decided to try to outwit the Batman and became the Riddler. Something like that. Yeah, that's a little. That's a rough draft. I'd probably want to polish it a little bit, but yeah, that's probably something more like what it should have said. So let's go ahead and get the Riddler out of the package. So we got all these plastic tabs we got to deal with here. There we go. And he's got one at each ankle. We're going to get those. And there's one around the torso here. If I can work it in between the muscles and not scratch it. This probably needs a sharper blade on it. It doesn't seem like it's cutting too well. But it cuts well enough to get this out. So let's go ahead and get these hands out. And here we have, he's got a lot of hands to him, which pleases me. So this one is like a trigger hand, like he's holding a gun, which of course he doesn't come with a gun because DC's weird about that these days. And he's got this more sort of open hand. I'm really glad they have all these different hands with the Riddler because it's going to give him a lot of expressive qualities for when we do poses and stuff. There's a pointing hand. And we got a thumbs up hand. All right. Pretty much every gesture we could get out of a hand that's G-rated. If you know what I mean. So here we go. Closed fist for the right hand. And a closed fist for the left hand. So a great assortment of hands there. You can if there's one character that I would want to have a large assortment of hands like that, it's the Riddler, who I see as being somebody who would be very expressive with their hand gestures and everything. And then we have this cane, which is suspiciously similar to the cane that Jim Carrey had when he played the Riddler in Batman Forever. So I have to assume that when Mcfarlane does a ooh, look at that, that's a good effect. Look at me looking through the cane. That's nice. When Mcfarlane does a Jim Carrey Riddler figure, which I don't know if that one's been announced, but it seems to me inevitable it's going to happen. They're doing a whole wave of Batman and Robin. Surely they'll do Batman Forever. I don't remember if they're actually going to or not. I'm presuming that cane will get recycled for Jim Carrey. All right, so now we got the Riddler out of the package, and man, I really love how this figure came together. The colors are perfect. He's got that it's kind of a light purple, but it's still a fairly intense purple. Not quite lavender, but on the lighter shade of purple. Lime green jumpsuit. It's all very brightly, very vibrantly colored. His hair, I think, even has like a little bit of blue highlight in it. Pretty cool. So, yeah. And already out of the package, he's in kind of like a pretty crazy pose. You know, the Riddler is a character that I feel like definitely is one that benefits from having as much articulation as possible. He's not a character that you want to just have standing attention on your shelf. You want to have him kind of in some kind of crazy manic pose. You think about Frank Gorshin on the 60s television series, or you think about Jim Carrey and that's kind of how you want the Riddler to be. You want him to be all manic and everything. So let's go ahead and put the cane into his hand. And unfortunately, the cane is, as often happens with these Mcfarlane accessories, the cane is a little on the flooby side. I would have rather they used a more rigid type of plastic there, but that's how he looks holding the cane. And then I'm going to go ahead and, I don't know if I'm going to do all these hands because there's so many of them, but I do want to try some of these other hands on him. So I want to put the pointing finger on him because I always really like that for the Riddler. Oh, and these cuffs are separate pieces, so you can actually rotate these cuffs around on the forearms if you want to. So that's pretty cool. So we're going to put the other gripping hand onto his right hand, and we're going to put the cane in there. There we go. And honestly, like in the Silver Age comics, I don't think the Riddler had a cane that often. But by this point, it's just so associated with the character. Do you really want to have the Riddler without a cane at this point? So he did have a cane that he had on the TV series, and I think that drawing a blank. John Astin, when he played the Riddler on that 1-2-parter, he used the cane a bit more than Frank Gorshin did. So there he is with the pointing finger. Riddle me this, Batman! That's nice. So I'll probably have him on the shelf with the pointing finger. I like that. So kind of cock the cane over his shoulder a little bit. Come on, you got that double elbow. You can do this. There we go. Something like that. Oh, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the articulation while we're at it. Again, this is going to be pretty standard articulation for a Mcfarlane figure. His arms go up about that far. He's got the double joints at the elbows. So great range of motion on those elbows. He's got the cool Mcfarlane ball joints at the wrist. So we can get all kinds of good poses out of him. Got a ball jointed head with like a really good range of motion. So we can get like a lot of good angles with the head and the neck. Very cool. He's got that great Mcfarlane torso articulation. I think that the Mcfarlane torso articulation is the best there is, as far as I'm concerned. You can always get such good poses out of that torso articulation. So surprisingly good range of motion on the torso. He can do the splits, no problem. Maybe not quite as far as you might expect the Riddler of all people to be able to do the splits, but he can do the splits. Legs go up about this far. They can only go up about that far because of the rubber trunks. It does kind of impede the articulation a bit. Even if it is aesthetically pleasing, it does limit the articulation, let's be honest. He's got double jointed knees, which that one I needed to kind of coax a little bit. But never force a stuck joint. Always apply some heat to it and soften it up a little bit. That's always the best thing to do. And then he's got that cool Mcfarlane ankle articulation, which, you know, they've it's still that sort of ball joint, but they're kind of disguising it now so it more seamlessly flows from the shin to the ankle. There's no thigh cut, and there's no shin, there's no boot cut. So, but thankfully the legs are still well articulated enough. You can still get a lot of good poses out of them that way. So, I think with me having gushed about this figure for almost 20 minutes now, it's obvious that I recommend this guy. Like, if you're somebody like me who's really into the classic comic book characters, like the classic designs and everything, like, I think this design of the Riddler is about 98% perfect Like, and I know that like you're probably like, well, what could possibly be wrong about it after you've gushed about this thing for a little over 20 minutes now? Well, he is a little muscular for how I tend to think of the Riddler. I think of him as being a little more scrawny, but I mean, he's reusing that Blue Beetle and Booster Gold body, so it's probably worth it to save a little bit of cash. And it doesn't look too bad. It looks pretty accurate to a lot of artists' interpretations of the Riddler. Like, I want to say Jose Luis Garcia Lopez probably drew him with about this build. And I also think they were maybe a little too flattering with his hairline, and the Riddler's hairline should be like a little more receding, And I'm not just saying that because because I ain't got no hair. But again, if we look back at how he's illustrated on this old cover, you can see he's got like that widow's peak, and it's a bit receded. That's how the Riddler was always drawn in the comics, as I remember. So, but those are just me kind of nitpicking. It's I can always find something to nitpick about. Like, remember, he's around here somewhere. Where did I see him last? Remember that this is probably one of my favorite figures that I've reviewed on this channel, and even then I'm like, the gray could be a little darker. But this also gives me an excuse to have these guys next to each other and turn his head. There we go. they look good together. This is classic Batman stuff here. You got your blue and gray Batman, and you got your classic style Riddler. You can recreate that one cover that I really like, that Ed Hannigan cover where he's in the foreground here, like, who says crime doesn't pay? And Batman's like, I do. And he's got the unconscious thugs with him and everything. You know the cover I'm talking about. So yeah, the Riddler definitely gets a recommendation. I would definitely suggest picking this guy up. He's a really fun figure. He's simple but detailed enough. It's definitely like you couldn't really ask for a better Riddler figure than this, even with the little nitpicks that I had. Like, this Riddler is pretty great. I love him. So anyway, that's it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Let me know what you think about this figure and the character of the Riddler and anything like that. So I will look forward to hearing from you, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.